Hello, and welcome to this special broadcast on CEN in partnership with the Bear and the Moon Tavern. I am your DM John, and I'm joined this week by our wonderful player Nost. And we are talking all things Odyssey, getting ready to go on the great trip into the format of the land of Thylea, as presented by Arcanum Games in partnership with Modifius. The BioWare guys wrote this book, Odyssey of the Dragonlords. It's a great book. If you're looking for a new campaign to run and you're into Greek mythology or anything like that, it doesn't follow our Greek mythology. It makes up its own wonderful Greek mythology. And it is just an incredibly great, packed to the brim, almost 500 pages of only adventure in this book. It's a huge book. It's a great purchase. And I'm really excited to run it for you guys. I know you guys are pretty excited. If you want to see how Nost and his teammates go through Odyssey of the Dragonlords, give us a like and a subscribe, ring that notification bell, and help us on our ongoing boss battle against the ultimate BBEG, the YouTube algorithm. But in the meantime, Nost, I'm real glad that you decided to stop with us. How are you doing, bud?
I'm doing A-okay, John, and I'm real excited. I'm really excited to do this.
Fantastic. Why don't you take this opportunity, please, to introduce yourself to the viewers out there, the people watching this video. Tell them, like how you got into D&D, anything you think is important to tell.
Okay, sure. Hi, everybody. My name's Nost. Well, let me start off by my journal to teach RPGs. This actually started off in college. When I was relatively young, I was young, pacey, and I didn't really like to talk to people. So I was mostly hung up in my room most of the time. I refused to get out most of the time, and I was mainly focused on school. I had a roommate. His name was Tommy. Me and Tommy used to hang out quite a bit, but when Tommy went to go out to go to parties, I just sat around at home, talk to my parents or whatnot, and watch Family Guy. Eventually, he told me hey, you need to actually see the sun for once in your life, and I'm like, I'm totally fine, man. He dragged me up by the scruff of my shirt, and he brought me outside on campus. Just in the middle of the night. It wasn't exactly the sun I was thinking about, but still, we went out. And as we're going through, he brought me to the theater in our university. So I went over there, and I was asking a bunch of questions, hey, where we're going, what we're going to be doing, and he's like, you'll see. So I don't know what Tommy used to do on the weekends. He used to always come back, always super tired, talking about something he used to do with his buddies, talking about how he would watch movies, pretend like he's a witch and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's, there's just some cool stuff. Maybe it's something imaginary or whatever. I didn't know what D&D existed at the time. So when he brought me over to this empty theater that was completely dark, I saw absolutely no one. It was just like one of those weird horror movie films if we first stepped into this room. And it's just me and him and no one else in the room. I stepped in there, and there was just this light that he turned on, and I saw there was a white plastic table in the middle of the auditorium and a few chairs there. And then immediately afterwards, as soon as we went down to the middle of the auditorium, which was super dark in there, someone tapped me from behind my shoulder, and he was dressed in this very eccentric purple and green tarp, and he had these things stapled on the side of his his head. Well, not actually on his head, right? But didn't staple it on his head, but there was these little kind of toilet paper rolls on his head to symbolize he was a minotaur or satyr. And he was really into it, and I didn't know what the heck this was. I said, oh my god, John, what the heck did you bring Tommy, what did you bring me here, man? What is this? And he said, well, actually, I figured you were into fantasy and stuff. That's why I used to tell him what was going on my weekends. So, and at the time I was telling him I wanted to work on a fantasy novel. So I was like, hey, you should try this out. And I'm like, what is it? And he's like, it's called D&D. He sat me down and he gave me a blank character sheet. I didn't know any of the rules then. I knew nothing. I didn't know anything to do. And he sat down with me, him and the DM, which was dressed up in this very eccentric garb, like I said before. And he just told me, okay, make a character. And I sat down with him with this giant castle DM screen that I was completely customized. I've never seen it before in my life. And I still never. It was crazy. It was super massive, but he was super cool.
That's so cool.
I know, it was really
That's a whole
awesome.
lot more epic than my introduction to the hobby. That's incredible, man. I've never had drama friends though. Drama friends, that's incredible, dude.
Yeah, it really was.
What was your first character?
My first character was a Minotaur barbarian, and what the DM let me do is that I was trying to be clever, and I said, "Can I?" It's like this is a D&D. This is a game you can almost do anything you want with your imagination within plausibility. So I said, "Okay, anything I want," and it says, "Yeah." So I told him, "Okay." In my first combat encounter, it was during the undead were rising from a graveyard that were ransacking a local village. It later sprang to a bigger plot that Lich was behind this. At the time, my Minotaur, I was thinking pretty stupid because I thought, like, with the introduction, you could do anything. I asked it, hey, if I could do anything, I could just ask to do anything I want. So I asked him, like, can I just break down this gate with my horns? And he said, yeah, give it a shot. I rolled on that one. I got my horn stuck in the grate.
Oh, no.
And the undead came out, they surprised me, and they proceeded to beat me until I was nearly inch of my life. After that, I then ran away from it as the undead horde was chasing me. And because I didn't want to touch them because I was on like 2 or 3 hit points, I said, DM, can I wrap around the whip that I had along with my great axe and just use it as an extension, just like Simon Belmont's
Oh, that's cool.
and he said roll me roll me a dexterity check. I rolled a dexterity check. I got a nat 20. He's like, you know what? Nat 20s are pretty good. So he said, yeah, you managed to do it. You managed to attach your whip to your great axe, and you do what Simon Belmont does, and you sort of just wing it around. And at the time, this DM didn't exist.
Rule of cool. Well done, DM.
It really nice. It was really good, and because of that, I really got into the hobby. I played a couple more games afterward, and after that, I got into like college. At college ended, my friends went different directions, and I still continue with the hobby. The hobby stuck with me forever, and I bought tons of D&D products. Bought Pathfinder, Will of Darkness, and it was a fantastic adventure, and it's something that I really forget about to this day. I met a lot of friends during that time, and there were so many magical adventures that I had, and a lot of deaths that I had when I first played the game. Man, it was.
How long ago was that?
That was about. Well, I'm 25 right now. That was back when I first started university, so that would be around when I was 18, 19. So about a couple years ago.
Okay. I did not know that you were the youngest person on this channel. Congratulations, Nost. You were younger even than Rose. And I'm just gonna go dye my beard black again. That's fantastic. I love hearing that. That's so epic. And I know from playing with you for the past few weeks that you are definitely a history guy. So,
Indeed.
Segue into the next question that we have is our campaign is all about Greek mythology. Who is your favorite Greek hero and/or mythology?
Okay, that's a tough one. If you're opening up to mythology, that's like that really brings it up. One of my favorite stories to this day was actually Homer's Odyssey. However, I liked Odysseus as he was, but what I really liked the most, the character the most, before Odyssey began, was during the Trojan War, and that was Achilles.
Oh yeah.
I loved Achilles for what he was. I love the battles he went through. I also like the political dynamics between himself and the different characters that took place in there during, well, the actual war itself. Even though it is myth and legend, obviously no man can survive a lance, bullet, or spear thrown to his abdomen. And, well, Achilles' fate, his heroism from the gods, dictated that he would die a death like no other.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, oh man, Achilles just. I remember the first time I saw Brad Pitt in Troy, and I thought, "Holy smokes, this is really cool! I need to read the book," and I was hooked. So I'm right there with you with the story of Achilles. I love that. So with that in mind, the theme of this campaign is mythic heroism. That's the 2 words. And when we get together for session 0 in a few weeks, I'm going to explain what that means to me. But when you hear that phrase as a first gut react, what does mythic heroism mean to you?
Mythic heroism. What it means to me is just adventure, grandiose scales of just monsters fighting against men, fighting against the perilous oncoming hordes, choosing new directions, just unexpected twists and turns. And well, I think of it also as like a picture in my head. It's just several groups of men and women grouped together, taking on just these godlike figures, these impossible tasks, and making something out of it. That's what I think about when mythic heroism, just doing the impossible.
I love it. That's fantastic. That is really, really good. And that is definitely a big theme in this campaign. It really has some of the best boss battles I've seen written in a published campaign. And I've played this game for a little bit. Just a little bit. Now, next up, we have, without spoiling too much, the main draw to this campaign is the concept of the epic path system. And, pardon my notes, but the epic path system. And without spoiling too much, this addition onto your character, in addition with your class, your race, and your normal background that you get anyway, you get to pick this epic path. Which one did you pick? If you want to share it, or how much you want to share, it's up to you. But which epic path did you pick, and why?
My epic path. The primary epic path I chose was the Vanished one.
Vanished one.
What drew me to it initially was this idea that this guy used to be a dragon lord of all things. Can you imagine that? A dragon lord in the world of Odyssey and the Dragonlords? It's absolutely
without dragons, except for you and your buddies. Yeah,
exactly. And this guy of all things, right? My character is completely different, and especially you gotta wonder if he's a dragon lord and he was gone such a long period of time. You can imagine the amount of difference it is between what we used to be and we used to know. So he's coming back of a completely, full cup of what everything used to be, and he thought that's not going to change. And well, we all know how the world is, right, when it comes to change.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about how the world's changed from your grandparents' day, right? And that's been 60 years. I couldn't imagine being in your character's shoes, the Vanished one, and you just wake up one day and it's 500 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, incredible stuff. So, your character, why don't you introduce us to Brontes, right? Class, subclass, role, black story, all the motivations, anything you feel like sharing with people. And feel free to keep any secrets to yourself if you do want to keep your secrets, but anything you feel free to share in this introduction video outside. I mean, none of the other players are here. No one else is going to hear it, right? This is just for you, me, and the viewer.
Right, sure. Brontes is a satyr. He's primarily a bard, and his particular subclass, if I can quickly bring that out, he's he is from the College of Eloquence and from the Epic College of Poetry, since we're allowing those two distinct subclasses.
Mm-hmm.
It's Brontes is a character that I came up with because Homer in the beginning was classified as the very first, or frankly no, I believe Herodotus would be the first historian, the first ever historian.
Yep.
And I used to think, historians often chronicleize the great achievements of whoever the heck they're chronicling, no matter what it is. But no one ever writes about the historian viewing those points to begin with. And I always thought that would be a fantastic primary source to go on. And since Brontes himself was there as a Dragonlord, and part of his backstory is that he was, a chronicler among the other Dragonlords, recording one of the great achievements they did, what people used to do, the traditions, the scientific developments, the mathematical bits, the politics, the major players. He was enthralled into all of it. And when Brontes is like the kind of person that's like, I guess a satyr, kind of satyr that likes to embed himself in his community. He likes to be at the forefront, discover new things, and and know people who are alike, and chronicleize, understand why they do the things that they do, because people are interesting. They've always been interesting, and they're never consistent.
I love the idea of the historian. It's very much, you're the person behind the camera. You're the one clicking the shutter while everyone else is posing and smiling. You're the one choosing the real, you're the photographer. I think it's a great concept. And Rose and I, in particular, we shared quite a long laugh when you told us your naming convention. She's from Texas, not far from where the Brontes sisters grew up.
Oh, really?
That's kind of their hometown claim to fame. All three of them. Okay, yeah, I mean, I loved it, and I mean, the next question is, what inspired you to make this campaign and this character in this campaign specifically? But I mean, you really built into the world around you. Whenever I handed out that player's guide, like you bit onto it full force, and you came up with you're a very strong role player, and I'm really excited for Brontes. I
I'm really
think that you
excited.
bring something to the party that wasn't there before.
I very much appreciate that, John. And I'm really excited what everyone else has to bring to the table as well. Brontes has got a lot of friends. He's got a
Yeah.
lot of questions to ask, a lot of things he wants to do with these people.
Well, one thing that I think's really interesting about your character specifically is like you have these two people in your party who are these incredible, larger than life figures that are heroes, you know, and then you've
Yeah,
got they're the big heroes, and then you've got their two almost sort of like followers who are helping them and bringing them to greatness and sort of reeling in their character flaws while extenuating their really great strengths. And then in the middle of that, there's you, and that's exactly where you're used to being, surrounded by these figures of power and greatness, and making your way through that way.
yeah. Uh, Brontes is sort of comfortable in this spot. He usually finds himself surrounded by these great people. Whether or not he thinks that life, destiny, or somehow, some way, something is connecting him to these people is another thing entirely. He views himself among the rest of amongst others great people as everyday people that made the right decisions that led them to these paths, these grandiose adventures, and to view it is definitely a journey within itself. Of course, in the back of his mind, he often wonders to himself, I wonder if a story like that will ever be developed with me.
Yeah. So Greek mythology, it's filled with gods and men and heroes, and as famous as they are for their deeds, they're also just as famous for their flaws, Achilles and hubris. Most of them was hubris, but a few of them had other flaws. What is your character's biggest flaw, you think?
My character's biggest flaw, for one I can definitely see, is Brontes's current view of the world, probably. There's a preset idea that where things have to be. As you know, time always changes, and people too, including their customs, and who they worship and what is good and what is wrong. That cultural clash can often be evident of him. And, well, sometimes you just simply need to let it go and grow as things continue to move on. Brontes, I guess in the short of it, is an old head. He likes to stay to the tried and true methods, things that worked. He doesn't like really to experiment all that much, which is probably the reason why he sometimes wonders, or why he keeps himself in that small little shell, surrounded by himself by people who do make that change, who do
That
take
makes
those
sense.
chances.
That makes perfect sense. So, sort of like preconceived notions.
Indeed.
Okay. So the next part of this interview process is actually fielding some questions that people have written into it. And first off, at the top of the list and underlined 4 times in 3 different colors of crayons, Kyra, um, goddess of speed and bards and music. The muse, Kyra, has asked me to ask you, which of the 5 gods is your favorite, and why is it not Valis?
Why is it not Valis? Ah, well, Brontes, from the several gods, Kyra. Brontes Kyra is just the personality of Kyra, what she stands for, and quite frankly, since Brontes is much of a chronicler himself, seeing Kyra's influence and seeing the different things he used to do, heck, maybe pulling pranks, telling jokes, or maybe passing, or just the kind of things he used to do. That kind of stuff kind of intrigues him. And well, he's kind of a bit of a devotee to Kyra. And seeing that, he often worships her and seeing and wants to follow, I guess, in her reverence and wants to idolize her and demonstrate somehow to her that the things that she does is godly, present itself as an inclination that what he wants to be and whatnot. He chooses Kyra. Although he does have an infatuation. Go ahead.
Please finish. I didn't want to interrupt.
Of course, he does have a devotion to a certain oracle, but
I understand. Yes. In a completely unbiased move, I was instructed to award you Kyra Inspiration. It's like DM Inspiration, except it can only be used on pranks and bullshittery. Um, completely unbiased here. Second question. This one comes to us from the God King of Astoria, Pythor, and he has asked me to ask you, Brontes, cheesy potatoes and wine or blood, sweat, and tears?
cheese, potato, and wine.
Cheesy potatoes and wine kind of guy.
Yeah.
Man after the God King's own heart.
Food is always good. Food has always been great.
All right. Volcan asks, what is your wish list #1 magic item for Volcania this year during the winter solstice?
The #1 magic item between the Volcania this year. That's let me see if I can remember. What was it for Brontes? I believe it was. Let's see here. I had it here somewhere. I believe it was a amulet that he actually has on his person. And that little amulet is actually encrusted with gold, and it just sort of resonates with what seems to be a blue hue. That sort of little magic item lets him to just sort of dissipate and move in different locations whenever he pleases, or at least until where the gem is aroused. The name of the gem conveniently escapes him. After all, I don't want anyone getting duplicates of such.
There you go. All right, let's see. The goddess Queen Valis was reached out to by CEN representatives but did not respond to comments. However, the twin titan Lutheria asks, what is your favorite party you've ever been to?
My favorite party I've ever been to? Oh, my favorite party I've ever been to was one of those large, encompassing banquets. One of my old fellows, actually at the time, decided to see if he could pull one over me at once. He actually tried to attempt to see if I could get me just encourage me to take on more wine than used to, as he tried to encourages me to dance and prance among the other fairy folk.
Friend.
He wanted to have a good laugh, and well, I was a bit too keen, as at that time I just finished the manuscript, and it was probably one of my greatest life's work. I had it published too, and everything. Although I had to revise it after there was a few unnecessary stains, as you could probably tell from the food and activities.
Okay, and finally, let's see. We have one from Lord Sidon, God of the Sea and Twin Titan. He asks, oh, that puts a dull on things. Sidon asks where you want to be buried.
Well, to be frank, I wish not to be buried if I could help it. I'd rather have my ashes I'd rather have myself be cremated, if you must know. But I do not see myself perishing in quite some time.
I can see Sidon in the corner writing down "burned to ashes." So I think you'll get your wish. So, in absence of Queen Valis' question, let's field you this one. Thylea is a rich world written by BioWare team and filled with lore and great places. Where on the map do you think you're most excited to see or explore?
That's a tough question to ask me. Out of all the places, actually, I guess I could. I believe this answer probably be a bit better. I actually am excited to see all of them. There's not a single place I do not find interesting, not whatsoever. Although there's a bit of favoritism perhaps in the starting area, but even then, the entire world is magical in nature. Especially its urban sense, well, it's Greek, of all things. And I love the Greek architecture, the history, the representation. This is entirely a playground that I couldn't get enough of. And I am going to explore every nook and every cranny that has ever been presented to me. I can guarantee that.
That's fantastic news. There is so much in this campaign that gets missed very often, just because of the nature of it, and so that'll be fun for me too. Um, let's see. So let's take a minute and talk about Brontes's hopes and his motivations mostly. What is it that he hopes for beyond all things?
What he hopes for before on all things. Brontes hopes one day secretly within his own heart for three individual things. One, he wants to have a chronicle written, completely written in his own name about the current differences between the different times, to chronicleize them between the different peoples. He finds that to be interesting. Second, perhaps to finally wed his beloved. And the last and final one, to become what he's always written others to be about one day. And that's something that he wishes somewhat internally. It's something that he has in the back of his mind. He knows it's there. He just gotta be pushed to get there.
Okay, very cool. I love that. My notes here say that I'm supposed to expand on those motivations to try and make them clear, but man, you laid those out incredibly clear. So finally, as we bring this kind of to a close, is there anything else you'd like to add to the discussion or talk about or say in the meantime?
One thing I can definitely say that actually comes immediately to mind is that for all of you who are currently listening, I hope you guys are ready to strap to your seats, grab a bag of popcorn, drink your favorite drink, and sit down and watch on CEN as we go through this fantastic journey together. And I can't wait to see you guys in this camera. Although, I do wish, Merv, I wish I could see every single one of you guys, your faces as we go through this journey. But beyond that, that's my message.
All right. I love that. That was very well said. Thank you for that. You make my outro look like amateur hour. But finally, the very last thing I have to ask you, for Brontes, if Brontes had a sending spell to send directly to the viewers in 25 words, what would Brontes say?
25 words, I have to count now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, let's see if I can think of it. What Brontes would say and write in a letter.
The sending spell, 25 words.
All right. I hope you're hearing this, because whatever you're about to experience is going to be something so beyond the normal that this will be one of the greatest moments anyone has lived through.
24, well done. Fantastic. Well, thank you for taking this time to sit down and introduce us to your character, Brontes, the Vanished One. And if you guys want to see more about Brontes and the rest of his party members as they explore the world of Thylea and Odyssey of the Dragonlords, we are set to start at the beginning of September here in 2 very short and fast approaching weeks. I am your DM Jon, and I'm joined by Nost, who will be playing Brontes. And give us a like and a subscribe here on CEN, and help us on that ongoing boss battle against the YouTube algorithm. And until then, until we delve into the Odyssey of the Dragonlords, we'll be seeing you guys. Bye, everyone.
Hi, everyone.